here to talk about knockout chaos. Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. Anthony Joshua knocks out Francis Ngannou within
You're
2 rounds.
watching Calf Kick
Something some
Sports
people thought, some MMA fans
Podcast.
didn't believe it. When I did my preview, I saw them comment. I got, AJ's not going to be able to deal with him, etc., etc. But let's go straight into the actual fight as well and break down the limited amount of fight, but what we saw, because I think we saw a lot as well. Let's go into round one. I think the fight starts off a bit cagey-ish, and as expected, you see Anthony Joshua just touching him up, same with Ngannou. Then Ngannou makes that novice move to move to southpaw, and bam, AJ gets him. Just talk to me about that little transition move to go into southpaw, and as a novice boxer compared to a two-time heavyweight champion, what you see and what that difference is. That's like a light bulb for Anthony Joshua in that round.
I think they studied Ngannou's movements from the first fight because obviously he was a bit unpredictable against Fury, and I think he tries to bring MMA movement into boxing, and sometimes styles makes fights. So against other fighters, you can get away with that. AJ's team, they took this fight very seriously. They studied him, and the moment he tried to make like a wide stance MMA type movement to change, from orthodox to southpaw, AJ made him pay, literally, because you can even tell the first knockdown, shall I say, it wasn't a concussive blow in terms of like the second and third was like, yo, he's out. The first one was more like, I've got you off balance, bam. It even reminded me of Terence Crawford against Errol Spence, where the first knockdown is he's just off balance, bam, got him. And then I think after that, AJ just found his rhythm, and the sports are two separate things for a reason, man.
I mean, let's talk about the second round as well, because what I started seeing a bit more as well was the way Ngannou's guard was done. He was dropping one of his arms, so you can see the gloves. Any sort of pro fighter sees that spot. They're like, we've got the overhand right, we can hit it. It was alluded to a commentary as well. And that was the telling shot at the end, like the way AJ loads it up, obviously after a knockdown previously as well. Ben Davison, because you see it in the changing room as well. I don't know if you've seen see them.
Yeah, I've seen the clip, yeah.
Loading up and it's like, bam, that's the overhand right. And that hits perfectly. Again, when you look at Francis Ngannou, I think a lot of people gave him credit, rightfully so. But then we see what happens when a professional boxer really takes it serious against a novice. And like,
it's not even just a professional boxer. It is
the elite.
Former unified two-time champion. And this is a quick one for all the AJ haters out there. To the AJ haters and doubters, realize one thing. He is not dead. He's not crap. Oh, he lost to Ruiz. He lost to Usyk. The only reason people chat rubbish about those losses, especially more the Usyk one, is because you don't understand boxing. You don't realize how great a talent Usyk is. That's what it is. That's all it is, in fact. Because Usyk, for me, is the best heavyweight out right now. You guys, just to the wider viewers, he might not seem as the best guy. So the way they just go like, oh, well, you lost to Usyk, is like, this guy is a former undisputed at cruiserweight and now unified champ at heavyweight. And if he beats Fury and becomes undisputed at heavyweight, this is a generational talent that can be mentioned with the greats. Losing to him ain't no, like, people take L's.
That's what I mean. And styles makes fight.
Styles makes fights as well, for true.
So this is what I was going to say to you. When it comes to Ben Davison, like, how much credit should he get for this? Because we've talked about Andy Lee with Joseph Parker and what he's able to do. We've now seen what Ben Davison is able to do with AJ going forward as well. Is this like a new match made in heaven, you could say, type of thing?
Absolutely. And listen, all credit to Ben Davison, because when people calling him boxer size Ben, he took it on the chin and he kept on just working at his craft and improving. When he threw in the title for Lee Wood, he got more criticism, and then he done the remontada, came back and got his belts back in blood. This is when people were just like, oh, the old AJ is gone. Then AJ went through an awkward phase of trying to figure out, how to reinvent himself. AJ 2.0. You see this AJ 3.0? My goodness, this is a reinvigorated beast. AJ 3.0. Before, I remember thinking, if Usyk wins undisputed, I don't want to see AJ versus Usyk. Now, I'm putting all my chips in. F it, bro. Team AJ, but getting undisputed.
I'm in the old chips. I'm going to talk about points quickly, but I do want to talk about just one thing, and that's towards the back end of that fight. The second knockdown, the referee then allows Francis Ngannou to get back up, and then within an instant, you see the overhand right that hits him, and that's it, knocked out. Do you think, in hindsight as well, and just as a professional doing your job there and then, the fight should have been called off after the second knockdown?
Yes and no. Yes, because in hindsight, we can all see he was done. However, in a high stakes fight like that, you want to be put out on your shield because you don't want it to be like disputed. And I would hate for that to also be taken away from AJ, where people are just like, oh, you gotta come back and this, that, and a third. It's just that this is the brutal side of the sport where it's just that sometimes you need a conclusive finish so that no one can chat rubbish. The only unfortunate thing is, it's not like football, basketball, where, you know, you can get one more goal to dead off a game. And then, yeah, you'll be upset, but you move on. Whereas this boy is like, that one more goal is an equivalent to getting knocked out, sparked out. And unfortunately, it had to happen just to put a full stop in it. And it weren't excessive. It weren't like, you know, he was out on his feet and then AJ just absolutely gave him one unnecessary shot. It was more of a
one shot knockout type of thing.
Yeah, but it's also like if that second knockdown was near the end of the round, yeah, and he recovered, no one would be like, oh my gosh, in the corner, stop the fight. Would have been like, all right, cool, take the round to rest. But because it was like in the last third of the fight, but I was almost like, you need to put him out a bit more. Yes, he's kind of out, but he's not all the way. And
what did it remind me of? You know, like in Mortal Kombat or Tekken, when like, look, you've knocked him down, but it's like, okay, let's get the fatality type of thing.
Yeah, that is what it is. Is that little bit of health bar there? That little bit of health bar there is not enough to stop it.
Yeah.
But you do need to put an exclamation mark on it to finish it. And yeah, that is a brilliant analogy. AJ just had to hit a fatality, and that's what it was.
You said one thing that's interesting, because I agree with you, although I hate the fact that I do, because I think if you had stopped it, a person with an understanding realizes 2 knockdowns by a heavyweight boxer within the space of 2 to 3 minutes of actual boxing is fine. But yes, you would have had them naysayers like, well, AJ didn't really do it. And Ngannou got up to his feet. He was able to do this. The reality is he was up on his feet, but in what capacity? But one thing I want to touch on is the sportsmanship. At the end of the fight, I think Ngannou understood, obviously, he was being by the better man, but also the more experienced man. But AJ alluded to the fact that, look, stick with boxing if you want to. Like, you can come back type of thing. What's your opinion on Francis Ngannou continuing on with boxing after he obviously looks with his PFL contractual stuff?
It's a techie one. I definitely agree he should stick with boxing. However, you also have to be comfortable with, to be fair, I can't even say have to be comfortable with, because the 2 big paydays he's got now is like you went and fought the best. So all the people making fun of Ngannou, which is weird, all the UFC shills and bootlickers trying to be like, oh, Dana must be laughing right now. Ngannou has made a payday more than a lot of UFC peers combined. Like this weekend, UFC 299, which is star-studded, Ngannou has potentially made more than all their payouts combined against one of the world's best.
I was going to say, just quickly on that as well, he's taken the shine away from 299, because it's not to say people don't care about the event, which they do, but I think if you ask them what's the bigger combat thing that people are talking about, it's going to be AJ versus Francis Ngannou.
And I like 299, don't get it twisted. I like, and we're going to speak on that soon. Shout out my guy Chio Rivera. Shout out my guy Dustin Poirier, who I'm rooting for the win.
I don't know.
But that's another. Yeah. But yeah, the Ngannou thing, like, there's no, listen, man, sometimes in life, it's rather better to fail to be great than to look back and be like, oh, I wish I could have done this, that, and the third. Yeah, the memes and the tweets are gonna be like stay off socials maybe a day or two for Ngannou, and then after that, you're gonna go to your hotel in Riyadh, and then you're gonna see 20 more M's in your bank account, which is gonna be shared between the team, but is what it is. However, wherever that that net profit is in the end is gonna be so much sweeter knowing that you get to say, I've been the UFC champion as well. That's why it's like when people try to laugh at Ngannou, it's like, let's not get twisted. This is still the lineal UFC heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
And now he's gone into the boxing field and done this against two of the best with a knockdown over the current lineal heavyweight champion. It's not too, if you're going to fail, I'll feel like that. I don't think it's embarrassing. Obviously, it's more of a shout on the UFC where it's just like you got to pay your fighters more. And I'm not saying it in terms of like, I understand it may not be functional to pay everyone like the 20 mil that Ngannou's getting, but the fact that there's a lot of long reigning champions that keep on wanting to go to boxing after is showing that there is something wrong with the pay structure. And I understand there are some millionaires from the UFC. However, all this disclosed money that they're getting is not the most ethical, let's say. But that's a whole conversation for a whole nother day.
My thing is with Ngannou, and again, this is not me coming off as a hater or anything like that. I always said when you fought Tyson Fury, it was underprepared Tyson Fury, but that's nothing against Ngannou. You do your thing. Again, I understand the opponent he's now faced, one, if not the best heavyweight right now on the planet or the top 3 conversation, understandable. The only problem you have with Ngannou right now is
where do you go?
Where do you go in terms of you can't fight. I think we've seen a skill level. We were talking right before, like, oh, he could fit into the top 10. I personally don't think he fits into the top 10 bracket of heavyweights. Below that, if you then fight someone below that, you lose, again, where does your stocks go? Like, how far do we go before we can't take you seriously enough when it comes to boxing? But then he's got what I call the Jake Paul effect, in the way that you got that crossover build, but if you fight someone too low, nobody's going to care enough. And then, like you see with Jake fighting Mike Tyson, etc., gimmick fights. So I think that's my only little issue with Francis Ngannou. And I can say, look, enjoy your money with what you got and just enjoy what you're doing now with MMA. You are 37 years
Yeah, that too. Ngannou done what he done. I want him to take some time from the knockout, take some time to acclimate back to MMA, go back to MMA, remind people who he is, do a big job at PFL, and like just getting them.
Because I think what we're seeing is the Saudi shows aren't going to come to an end anytime soon, so that will always be an option. Just quickly then, Eddie Hearn, I saw the celebration. I'm going to try to speak to him when I'm at Catrell Taylor, hopefully, about this. But I want to know from you, because I think he half jumped the gun. He goes, we want Tyson Fury next. Knowing that Usyk has Fury lined up. So has he just jumped the gun a bit too there?
He done what he meant to do. Fury's in the crowd. Fury is there. Usyk isn't. So as a promoter, I'm gonna do what needs to get done to get the crowd hyped. Maybe it's because I don't take things too literal sometimes. I just see it as he's doing promoters work. Fury's right there in the crowd. They're both British fighters and it's both a big British fight. Yes, I'm gonna call out Fury because even if Fury loses, people still want to see the AJ Fury. So I don't see it as dismissive of Usyk. I just see him as capitalizing on the moment and saying that that's the guy that he wants to face.
If you're AJ, then just quickly, do you want Usyk or do you want Fury to win in that unification bout in May?
Either, because you gotta remember, Fury thing is the whole Great British fight, and then Usyk is this is the guy that beat me twice and took my belts, and this is my last chance to get revenge. So, and this is, like I said, AJ 3.0. So I think this is like that weird thing where people do when AJ starts to get in the zone, pre-fight. Oh, he looks nervous and this, that.
I don't understand this nervous stuff.
Do you know what's annoying about it? It's like, let him get into the zone. Like, how many fights do you need to realize this is him getting into his zone? And you keep on asking him these stupid questions. and then being like, oh, he's nervous. Oh, he's not calling out a said name. This guy is always, one thing you got to respect is AJ's discipline, because despite all the money he has, the guy stays disciplined and says, I'm focused at the task in hand. And then people start calling him shook. He tried to like trick him out of his position. And this is why he's like got a bit of a heel turn where he's just like, everyone can F off, because I keep on telling you, I'm focused on this. And then you keep on trying to drag me into different places. And I just feel like, yeah, this is AJ's just laser focused on whenever his next task comes, he will go into that and then be that person and then move on to the sunset. So with AJ, I think it's whenever they give him the next task, he's like a mercenary. Give him the folder on his opponent. All right, cool. Let's go get this win. So either way, AJ 3.0, undisputed. I'm putting all my chips in.
I'm with you. I'll put my chips in as well.
I'm putting all my chips in.
That's why I said before we could wrap it, is the fact that Anthony Joshua will not shortchange anybody, and we saw it in the second round in knockout of Francis Ngannou, Ben Davison. Potentially, you're on your way alongside Andy Lee to be in that Coach of the Year conversation, depending on what fighters get on throughout 2024. Until next time, peace.
Wow.